PodSaaS, where we're putting the SaaS back in sassy. Sponsored by Leader Pro, where you can book demos with target customers on demand and fill your sales pipeline instantly.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of PodSaaS. I am your host, Chris Sheng. Today we have Aleks. Is it pronounced Gollu?
Aleks Gollu, yes.
Gollu, got it. Perfect. And you're from 11Sight. Why don't you tell us real quick what the elevator pitch is for 11Sight, and then also, what makes a good customer for you guys?
Perfect. So at 11Sight, we started it to bring businesses closer to their customers with instant conversations. And specifically, initially, we are focused on the needs of sales and marketing organizations, and we are helping them accelerate lead conversions, especially at the top of the funnel, by eliminating friction that exists in the current processes. Right? You want to reach a business today, the experience is you have an AI chatbot, you're going to fill out a form, maybe 3 to 5 days later, somebody will get back to you and schedule a meeting. Now, we look at it 3 types of sales deals. If I'm buying a $17 t-shirt, I don't want to talk to the vendor, they don't want to talk to me. If it's $1 million RFP, there will be 9-month sales cycle. Who cares if the meeting is instant or in 5 days? But those fast sales, high velocity sales, that the decision is made in 30 days or less, a 5 to 10 day delay kills the deal. Mm-hmm. Only 70% of people show up to a scheduled meeting, and 78% of the people buy from the vendor they talk to first. Right? And we know from our experience that as today's vendors, we are experienced. We basically do our homework, we create a short list, and then we want to talk to the vendor for legitimacy and trust and to maybe clarify some requirements. So that's the problem we saw, that the top of the funnel needs to change for inbound sales. And the solution we then delivered is a video call platform that's tailored to the needs of a sales and marketing organization, where a marketing person can run campaigns. The call to action is an instant video call. The prospect can originate a call from any website, even from a QR code on a printed material. So this could be a chat ski that you give away at an event. And they don't need to download anything. They don't have any platform restrictions. They don't need to make any appointments. It's instant connection. And to the business, we give patented routing algorithms so that we connect that call to the most suitable available salesperson. We provide that salesperson call context. Who is calling? What line is this call coming in? What's your expected outcome and next steps on this line? What else do we know about this caller?
Interesting.
And then we also give the salesperson the ability to take notes during the call on that call screen, which then updates the CRM, triggers the necessary workflows, and moves the deal forward.
Got it.
Problem, friction at the top of the funnel on inbound sales. Eliminate that, double your leads.
So it's almost like the call now button on like if you're talking about SMB, right? Like on the SMB side of things, of like call now to like a service-based business that's local to you, and then you book right away, you talk to somebody right away. But in this case, you're talking about like larger deal sizes. This is your target customer, for example, though, you're saying is like not necessarily like e-commerce, like direct to consumer, and it's not necessarily those that are like super long sales cycles and high ticket RFPs, but it's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, so anywhere where there's enough margin where the vendor can afford to have a 10-minute conversation, right?
Got it.
And we do have marketplace customers. They do it a lot more from customer satisfaction, right? We do have a marketplace where they do grocery delivery. It's like Instacart for ethnic foods, company called Bakal. They are in the Bay Area, they are in LA, and they want their consumers, their drivers, and their grocers to be able to talk to each other with video, show, okay, this is what you ordered. We don't have that. We'll give you something else. Would you be okay with that? And all of them can also talk to headquarters Bakal if they have any concern.
Interesting.
We rolled this out initially in B2C. So we have automotive customers, Fiat, Hyundai, In US, we have Ford Minority Dealer Association. In fact, yesterday they just published their magazine. We are on the cover. We gave them a branded experience, but we are also focused on B2B SaaS companies. So that's why it's a more general description of if your sales cycle is quick, where 5 days will make a difference, and if your customer warrants enough margin for you to have a conversation, then we are good for you. I mean, you could be a solopreneur, it doesn't matter. I mean, we have a lot of lawyers, immigration lawyers, who actually have it on their button. They're not really selling a product, they're selling a service.
Yeah.
But we also have a lot of small SaaS vendors who are just trying to bring their solution to the market, right? I mean, one thing that I would tell people is that if they want to list their solution on AppSumo, which is what we did at the end of last year and early this year and acquired 1,800 customers, a very good thing to do is put a call to action on AppSumo's website, wherever you are present, and say, call us. We would get 10, 15 calls a day, and then it's a 5-minute call because they say, how does this work? And you say, this is how it works, right? And then you eliminate any questions, and that actually today still wows your customer. That's a big differentiator.
Yeah.
Because the status quo is, oh, I'll push you to an AI chatbot and to a meeting in the future, which actually doesn't even make sense for the person answering that call, because now I need to prepare for that meeting.
Yeah.
The expectation is higher that I need to be prepared, because if I answer the call in real time, I'm not expected to be prepared. You just call me. I just need to know who I am. Now, the good news is we'll tell you about who the caller is, where they are calling from, and if they gave us a business email about their business. But you can then in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, qualify the deal and move it to the next stage. And if it's not, then it's okay. You still leave a pleasant impression and you move on to your next call or to whatever it is that you were doing.
Yeah, makes sense. And so it seems like there's a component here to both the CX side and then also on the sales side. Is that correct?
Yes. So ultimately, when I said we want to bring businesses closer to their customers, that is the entire customer lifecycle experience.
Yeah. Okay.
Initially, obviously, we are giving you features that sales and marketing teams will need. Run campaigns, associate that with a group line, let that group line ring, monitor your salespeople, see if they are answering the calls. Or if, as an individual, you want to run campaigns just for yourself, you can see which campaign is performing better and when your calls are coming in, and you can then adjust what you need to do.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense. Interesting. Okay, cool. I want to dive into a little bit more about how you decided to tackle this problem. But before we do, definitely want to start to get to know you a little bit better. Just your story, how you got here. So we do this thing called series of rapid fire questions. I'm just going to go through just 10 basic questions here. Any hesitation or any questions before we kick things off?
Go for it.
All right, awesome. First question is favorite entrepreneur and or startup story. It could be one of the same or different.
My answer to that is it's never one entrepreneur, never one idol. Everybody is excellent at something else. Have a portfolio of people that you look as example, as an idol, as an example, as a mentor. Use this guy for their sales capability, this guy for their engineering, this guy for their marketing, because it takes a village to make a startup. So if you want to take somebody as an example, use all of them. Now,
fair
on
enough.
the other hand, my personal experience of how I got into all of this is between my master's and PhD, I worked for a while. Initially, I joined this company, Oracle. They were an up-and-coming company in 89.
Mm-hmm.
They were 2,000 people, and I thought they were too big. So I moved to a smaller company in Berkeley, 120 people. They went public in the process. So that company going public gave me that aura that, maybe this is what I want to do. Now, I did go back. I did finish my PhD in 95, stayed at the university for a while, but my co-founder at 11Sight, Farah, and I were students together, but we weren't academically minded enough. And we said this was like the beginning of the .com era. We said we need to do our own company. And that's what, like at age mid-30s, took us from an industry or academic position to doing our own startup.
Got it. Okay, cool. Do you remember as a kid, like 8, 9, 10 years old, what you wanted to be?
I definitely do, because like everybody I talk to, a doctor, oh, I want to be a doctor. Somebody, a watch repairman, oh, I want to be a watch repairman. After a while, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to answer that question anymore, because every time I am answering differently.
Got it.
But what was pretty clear was that I was good with technology, math, and sciences. So that's what I was going to study. And that basically what took me ultimately to MIT for my undergrad. So everything I studied was electrical engineering, computer science, but there wasn't any electricity in it. It was always more system engineering.
Yeah.
So like deal with it in abstraction. And then that's basically one thing led to the other is, okay, if I want to solve big complex problems, first off, I need to learn to identify what's a problem worth solving. And then I need to have a pragmatic solution to it. So a thesis that you do in your PhD is very much like that. Because if you pick a problem that's too difficult, you're going to be stuck at the university for 10 years. If it's too simple, nobody will sign your thesis, right? Product management or picking a startup idea is very much the same. You have to pick a problem that needs to be a good business problem. It needs to be a good business problem for a startup. And it needs to be a good business problem for a startup for a given team. It is within your skill set such that you have this, what people call unfair advantage against anybody else who would have had the same idea. Because what I also know is that there are 6, 7 billion people in the world. If you have a business idea, you are not the only one.
Yeah.
Others have seen it.
Yeah, it's all execution.
Your team, is it like the technology you know better? Is it the customer you know better? Is it the problem you know better? Ideally, is it all of the above?
Yep, for sure. Next question here is going to be centered around most painful experience. And this could be personal or professional. And the context is that I think most people go through exponential growth coming out of very uncomfortable situations. So has there been anything in your past, again, personally or professionally, that you go back to that in the moment was very difficult or challenging, but ended up being character defining?
I mean, so my first startup, .com era, .com boom.
Yeah.
Then there is like the bust that's happening. We had a proposal in front of Verizon, and that contract would have made the company. And on September 10, they said, we'll get back to you tomorrow. Guess what year that was? September 11.
Yeah, 2000.
Everything fell apart. So that day, I mean, on one hand, you are looking at the situation, the country, the world. Then you are looking at the business. Luckily, we actually ultimately everything got recuperated, even though they lost they had 2 stories in the Twin Towers that got destroyed. Eventually, we got that contract, and then ultimately we sold that company to a competitor.
Interesting. What did you learn from that experience?
I mean, the key thing that you learn as an entrepreneur is, there are a couple things. One is it's perseverance and resilience. Nothing will go as planned. Murphy's Law applies. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. But you need to have your plan A, B, and C. That doesn't mean that you put enough energy on them. You put 120% confidence in your plan A. You can't just second guess yourself. Perseverance, resilience, attack A. And for whatever reason, maybe it's not under your control, you go to your plan B. And, when the .com bust happened, there was nothing we could have done about it as a startup. In my second company in 2008, the financial crisis hit. We had 100K, $1 million, $2 million in revenues, looking at 4. And then in 2009, we ended up making 1. right?
Okay.
So we survived that. And ultimately, my second company was acquired for 50 million by Excel KKR in a private equity roll-up. So eventually, it's a longer journey, but eventually it did happen. And in this company, at the 11Sight, where we are focused on video, now early on, we knew that video is going to be the communication means of the future. We knew about meeting rooms. We knew about WhatsApp and Skype for two friends to talk. And we said, let's solve a different problem. And that's basically was those instant connection where it's a little bit of a symmetrical relationship where a prospect is calling the business.
Yep.
Now, when we first started, this wasn't even possible to let a prospect call from Chrome or Safari with one click without downloads. We built all of this. In January 2020, we are looking at the market and we are saying, people aren't adapting video fast enough. Maybe we should slow down the expenditure and the rollout of the product. Then May of 2020, we are like, we are behind. We wish we had all the features we had planned for already. So in that case, it was an external shock that we didn't control that made us.
Got it. Very cool. Next question is, going through some of these painful experiences, having your back against the wall, what's motivating you? What's pushing you in the 25th hour?
Everybody has to find that inside themselves.
Yeah. But what's that for you?
People ask me the question is like, what makes you get up in the morning, right? And I say, when I go to bed, I set the alarm to 8.5 hours later. And then when it rings, the alarm goes off, I get up. Right? You almost, in my case at least, you need to abstract yourself away from what motivates you. It's like, this is what I decided to do. There is going to be a lot of things to that end I need to do. Some I will enjoy, some I won't. But anything that I'm good at that's important for the company, or some things that I'm not that good at yet still need to get done, I have to do. But somewhere, somehow, and as I was telling you earlier, it got set in my head that I want to do a startup, right? And the reason for that is there is that masochistic and obsessive portion of the personality that, if I want to do something, I want to do the best. And the realization was, if I'm doing that, no matter what the job is, I may as well work for myself, right? I may as well take the risk and get the rewards, right? So when we built our first startup, we also were realistic, right? So when we built our first startup, Parov and I, we defined success as being able to see it through without screwing it up, right? We didn't expect to be billionaires at the first startup. And we did see it through and we made some money at the exit. We sold to a competitor. The second time we did a startup, we defined the success as making money for all shareholders. And we did that. Farov sold his company to Maxim Integrated. As I said, we got acquired a couple of years ago. This time we are defining success as making a lot of money for all shareholders. Not just some money, but a lot of money, right? But if you set out to do that, you need to be also comfortable with the risks you are taking, right? Because the first two startups we did with traditional venture funding. So we raised 3 million, 5 million, and we paid ourselves a salary. That allowed us to take that risk because we are fresh out of college. We have student loans, just bought a house, need to pay the mortgage. So you need to be aware of that.
Yeah.
And then come the third company, we are investors in the company ourselves and we are not taking any salary. So we are sharing the risk. Why? Because the first company, by the exit, we had like single-digit ownership. This time we want to have double-digit ownership.
Yeah.
And we realized that not everybody is at the right stage to do this. We had a co-founder, much younger guy, young daughter, needed to buy a house and he needed salary.
Yeah.
He's very happy. We parted ways. So you need to make sure that your team's goals and stage in life is aligned.
Absolutely. Next question here. I want to circle back to that later, but the next question here is like, what do you do given all the strenuousness and stresses of starting a business? What do you personally do to decompress?
Two things. One, I already mentioned, I sleep 8.5 hours.
Yeah.
So when I was at high school, I used to sleep 9 and my friends would like make fun of me because that's what it was. When I got to MIT, like, okay, there are 168 hours in a week and I have more work to do. What can I do? I tried to cut it down to 8, didn't work. I stabilized it 8.5 and I keep that. Right? Whenever I go to bed, unless there is some important meeting the next morning, I set it to 8.5. The other is I make sure that I exercise at least an hour a day. So that's basically where all of that nervous energy that's piled in you, you discharge that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, I mean, it's also a lot of the stress. Part of it is self-induced because you set expectations for yourself. If they are too high, you will always be frustrated. If they are too low, you will not get anywhere in life. So what are the expectations you have to set that you can come close, achieve some of them, and then they keep pushing it. You can keep pushing yourself.
Absolutely. Cool. Next question is, as a founder, you tend to wear a lot of different hats and you pick up a lot of different skill sets that you probably didn't think that you were ever going to learn. Has there been any one that you've picked up along the way that you have a strong emotional disposition towards, either loved or hated?
So what I know I'm better at is the improvisational portion of it, or the construction and definition set of it. So yes, I do sales. I can tell a good story, but executing marketing campaigns, that did not fit me. So we have a VP of marketing who does that. And then customer success. Basically, over there, you want the least amount of improvisation. You want to have your processes that are followed. Yep. So that's one place where I did not get to. But being a CFO and the financials, I mean, having a technical background and a mathematical sort of aptitude, that became my de facto second head in all 3 startups. Then the first one, we did have a CFO the first year or 2. Ultimately, we have to do some cost cutting. I took that over. In my second company and in this company, I was the CEO, CFO, CTO, CFO. I carried that CFO hat.
Got it. This one's a little bit more personal, but do you have a bucket list, and what's one of the more ambitious items on your bucket list?
I mean, I like scuba diving. I have not been to the Great Barrier Reef to go, and I hope it's still there. I know it's eroding.
That's a good one.
But more travel would be good.
Awesome. Last question here, and I mean, we kind of alluded to this throughout the conversation, but it's the idea of legacy, and more importantly, what kind of impact you want to leave on this earth before you leave it.
Yeah. So, I mean, the startups we try are not just aimed at making money. Clearly, the goal is to make money, but there are 2 ways you could formulate a startup, right? One is, I want to build something that people are already buying, but I'm going to be cheaper, faster, better. On the other extreme, you can see some technology change and you solve a problem people aren't even thinking of. Like the canonical example is the Xerox machine. Mm-hmm. People said, oh, the carbon copy paper market, that's tiny. Who needs a Xerox machine? Nobody thought what else it was going to enable. If you think about iPhone, who needed a screen where you could actually enlarge the screen when you are making a phone call? Mm-hmm. Who needed all these gains on your phone? That was not a need, but when the technology got us there, it made it possible. Now, the second set of companies require significant more funding because you need to define the problem in the customer's mind.
Yep.
But the first set, they also require a lot of marketing and sales to be able to differentiate yourself, right? Our startups, the 3 startups I did, as well as like at the PhD time, we were working on automated cars and highways. And we knew in 95 that this is not going to happen soon enough. So that's why we moved away from it. Mm-hmm. But we tried to be close to disrupting something, right? The first startup was SMS application for wireless handsets, but Netscape was new and the Motorola flip phone. So we made it possible for people to use their phone to get messages. The second company in today's parlay was an IoT company in the cloud. So we made the supply chain more efficient by displacing pen and paper, right? In a distribution center, manufacturing plant yard, there are a lot of trailers parked. These are the trailers that you are stuck on behind on highways. They are probably delivering toilet paper to Safeway. So in the distribution center, people would write down which trailers are there. We automated that. So when we first started that second company, people would let a trailer that's loaded wait for a day or two before somebody came and picked it up. Now, Amazon today, does same day delivery. So all of that became possible with the type of technology we were delivering. And today, again, we saw video as a communication means of the future. We knew that the needs of a classroom, courtroom, grandmother's birthday are all different. We knew that, let's say, Hopin and AirBeat are focused on events. So we said, okay, where can we take this new video technology and make a difference where nobody else focused on? We said, let's focus on customer lifecycle management, specifically on the needs of sales and marketing organizations, and then let's bring them the change. Right? They need to have that mental shift of, oh, I will optimize everything for the needs of the sales guy. Let the prospect wait. We need to change. And Jason, he is the founder of SaaStr, Jason Lemkin, recently wrote an article that said, if the phone rings, pick it up. Right? So what we are doing is we are taking this disruptive technology and having people rethink their inbound top of funnel lead conversion.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, are you going to SaaStr in the SaaStr annual event in September?
We will probably attend, yes.
All right, great. I'll probably see you there. Last question here, before we kind of sign off, as we're rounding up on the hour, is the idea of, where do you see this company in the next 5 years, right? Like, this is your third startup. It seems like you've had a few successful exits, and this one you're looking to return, a large financial outcome for your shareholders. And obviously, as part of that, you and your co-founder are hoping to hold a double-digit or majority share of that outcome. So where do you see this? I mean, in 5 years from now, is it like something you see? Some kind of exit, an IPO, or do you feel like
things can happen, right?
Yeah.
And so when you start the company, you never say, I want to get acquired. Even in the first company, you work as hard as possible to make that company as large, as successful as possible, right? And yet, as I was saying earlier, is that you also need to know to have the right expectations, right? You have your expectations, but still you work as hard to exceed them and do as well as you can. So we are selling our solution now to enterprises in B2C market and B2B market, and even to solopreneurs. So as these different markets come to fruition, our goal is to reach 100 million ARR. But we also know there is going to be a consolidation in the video market in a couple years. If we get there fast enough, we may be acquiring others. If others get there faster, they may end up making an offer to us that we cannot refuse.
Fair enough. That sounds like a good two-part strategy there. Awesome. Well, I wanted to say thank you for taking the time today. That was great. I think provided a lot of good insight based off of your experiences and, going from the different startups, the different types of expectations you laid out, and the different motivators and intent behind each one. So I just wish you the best of luck with 11Sight. Seems like you've gotten some great traction so far, and you have a pretty strong vision in terms of what you are looking to do in the next 5 years here. So,
and then what I would actually encourage your audience, especially if they're trying to sell their software, is come to our website, 11sight.com, go to pricing, and then try out our solution. It's 2 weeks for free. Plus, for you specifically, we have created a discount code PodSAS10, PODSAS 10, PodSAS10, they'll get an additional 10% discount for that.
Awesome. I will let
If they have any questions, they can video call us. We basically are our first customer. Who knows? You may actually even get me because I am on the sales line at one of the escalation levels. So
Awesome. Very cool. Yep. We'll definitely promote that for you, and we'll share that all the links provided.
perfect.
All right. Thank you so much, Alex.
Thanks, Chris.
All right.